All right, guys, here it is. I was fortunate enough to pick up this breaker in North Carolina. In this particular case, there were 12 of these that were available. I grabbed this one. So I thought I'd take a couple minutes to walk through the contents of the package, do a really quick figure review. There are folks that are a lot better at this than I am, but I figured if I had a few minutes, I'd share a little bit about what I found with this figure. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up. So nice packaging here, like all the other classified figures. You get a nice photo of breaker there on the side. You got a looks embossed a little bit, but it's all flush and uh, built into the design of the box on that side. And on this side, you got the typical number and so on. And on the back, you have a map of Cobra Island. So you got three distinct areas here on the map. So I'll flip it back around, open it up, and get started. All right, so I am not an inbox collector, so this really doesn't impact me. But it broken corners on a couple of these corners. Again, not really a big deal. I'm going to open it up. The associate that was working gave him the DCPI number, and they have to be putting out toys when I was in there. So kudos to him for taking care of me and getting this out for me. So I was able to score one of these. So let me open this up. All right, so here we are. We're going to open this up. Like so. Out comes breaker. All right, so I am back. I'm going to go ahead and start with the smallest piece, which is this helmet. So a lot of great detail in the helmet for the motorcycle rider, aka breaker. So a personal project I have going on is to 3D model a traditional military helmet. So with this being specialized for a driver with the mic, the visor, and you can kind of see some of the detail on the top of the headgear. This would be pretty specialized for me for somebody that would be driving a bike, or it'd be really awesome if we got a tank. But for this purpose, it works for breaker. So just rotate this around so you can see it. So the only thing that would have been really cool is if this visor would have been somewhat translucent, so you could have seen the driver's eyes. But still a cool model nonetheless. So I kind of mentioned on one of my stories that I wanted to 3D model a military helmet. And so this might be like a more advanced helmet for me to model eventually. I'm going to stick with something fairly straightforward, an infantry helmet or so on. But it does give me something else to aim for and shoot for. And maybe if I'm asking Hasbro to do that visor and a clear material, maybe I'd take a crack at it. But it's definitely something that, from a customization standpoint, it's doable, but it does take a little time. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that on breaker so y'all can see what he looks like. So push that down just a little bit more, like so, and there he is. He's all set, right? So you got some good articulation here in the ankle area. One of the things I struggle with a lot is the opposing of a figure. So the joints are nice and tight. I like the traditional kneecaps instead of, or the knee covers, as opposed to the kneeling pads, as opposed to the ones that were a little bit more sci-fi looking. Fortunately, I have a left foot and a right foot, so I know some folks have had that with some of their Hasbro figures. I think there's some opportunity there with the wristwatch, maybe to add some more detail. Nice web gear here at the top, so again, a nice project to remove that. It does have a hole there in the back if you wanted to mount something else, give them a backpack. You get your arm abduction, adduction. His arms don't come quite to his sides, but most figures don't do that. And again, one of the things that I was trying to teach myself was to paint faces, and I can definitely see from a Hasbro standpoint or a larger OEM, kind of sticking with a regular flesh tone and being done with it, since it can be time consuming just to do one of these, let alone many of them. So again, a flexion and extension at the kneecap, around the ankle there, here at the hip, and again you got that on both sides. Um, Fairly posable. My stormtrooper, I'm sorry, my storm shadow that came, he was very very wobbly in the hips. I could never really get him to stand. And this one, I think I kind of have that figured out a little bit. It was a little easier for me to get him set up. He is a little loose in the hip area, but it is something that I can kind of deal with and work out and so on. So nice little wristwatch there. Flexion in the elbow joints. Again, if you really want to see a detailed review of the hip joints and so on, there's a lot of other folks that do these kind of videos. But I was pretty happy I was able to get a handle on this guy today, so I go ahead and picked him up. So the only thing that I wish he would have come with, and I think a few other folks had mentioned, is the ability for him to have a sidearm. So I'm fortunate enough to have purchased a license for the figure gear materials. So I will be 3D printing a resin flexible holster for him, along with a sidearm. So when the bike comes, let me get him on there like so. So y'all may have seen when he comes in the package, right? So the gun is separate from the little sidecar, and for today's purposes, since he's going to go back in the box, since I'm currently doing some stuff at the house, he's going to go right back in the box. The sidecar and this Gatling gun come apart. They're separate pieces in there. So it's the figure, the helmet, the Gatling gun, the sidecar, and the bike are all kind of individual. So you put the sidecar together with the Gatling gun. When I think of the Gatling gun, I think of Roadblock and not so much Breaker. But I'm happy to have this figure. The motorcycle is fairly rugged. Has some nice little controls. Oops. Here in on the front of the bike, or the top of the bike. Here the seat. And then you rotate this around. I mentioned that it would be nice if his visor was translucent. This particular piece is, so it has a little bit of a dark clear plastic look to it. You got the American flag that's printed on there, and then some of the other G.I. Joe logos and other things. So I think the bike itself would look even better if, again, if I get another one to go ahead and do like a dry brush silver on some of these parts to really make it stand out, and maybe some black wash to kind of again make some of the details in that part of the bike stand out, the body and so on. But for $40, I am definitely a much bigger fan of this bike than I was, say, the Scarlett bike. It just has a better feel to it. I think it looks a little bit more realistic than the COIL bike did, but nonetheless, it's definitely a worthwhile pickup. And I just realized that there are pegs here for his feet. So to show you guys, I really didn't even play with this much before I started making this video. But again, the biggest challenge I think is with this web gear on, getting Breaker to kind of lean over on the bike is going to be a bit of a challenge. But again, take the web gear off, tinker with it a little bit, and so on, and you should be good to go. So again, the front wheel turns a little bit, but it's nothing. It's nothing significant. You probably go like so. So you do have the option to pose it like that. So if you have any questions, please post them in the comment section. And again, you have this. I think that's probably painted red on there, as opposed to like a clear. I don't think there's quite enough room to maybe drill this out and put a really, really small LED in there. But then the challenge becomes, where do you put a battery pack and so on. So I am going to pause this video and then take